them to share an understanding marital trust and how to rebuild it when it's broken. There's also books, What My Parents Taught Me About Sex, Marriage, and Choosing a Husband by Huey and Petreece Cuffie, and A Mind for Christ by Huey Cuffie, and these are available at Amazon.com. So let me give you the number once again to WhatsApp her, and she's going to take your WhatsApp messages at 329-7383. So we're getting ready for Petreece Cuffie at this time. So at this time, I want to say good afternoon to my sister Petreece Cuffie. How are you on this Monday afternoon?
I am good. I'm good. Are you hearing me clearly?
Good to have you. I am hearing you loud and clear.
All right. My headphones giving me problems today. I have to check out what might be happening there. So I don't have headphones. So just hoping that with the program there won't be any feedback on my end. Yeah.
So far, so good.
All right. Great. Yes, I'm good, and thanking God for His grace. This is one of those days I feel I need a little extra grace from God, but I'm good. So today, continuing with the importance of premarital counseling and wanting to go into a little bit more detail about the issues that need to be addressed in premarital counseling. So again, thank you all for viewing, for listening, wherever you are in Trinidad and Tobago and throughout the world. And I think this is an extremely important program because, as I say, people are, we wired for relationships, we wired for companionship. And while marriage is just one of the areas that we look for companionship, it is an important area. Also, again, to say that your, for want of a better word, relationship status is of course not an indication of your worth, your value, you fulfilling purpose in life. There's this thinking that I hear a lot of times. It's almost like if you're not married, something is wrong with you, or you don't fulfill the purpose that God has for you. That is not true. We see Paul is a beautiful example of that. Paul was never married. And I mean, God really used him in a profound way, and we are benefiting from that all the time as the body of Christ. And we see where he would have even said, he wish more could be like him. But of course, we know singleness is a gift or grace that God gives. So saying all that to say, this is not about one state being better than the other. This is just a reality that we have to address, the issue of people wanting to have healthy marriages, and in us wanting to have healthy marriages, what is some of the work that we need to do beforehand. I also want to speak to, it just came to mind, so I want to talk about it. God would have said to me who my husband would be, right? However, we still had 2 years of premarital counseling. There's this notion that because God says so and so, that it will just work out. And we know that's not so. God may speak to you and tell you that you are going to be a doctor. God tells you you are going to be a doctor. You do not 2 weeks later go in a hospital and say, God told me I'm going to be a doctor. Let me deal with this medical matter, right? You go and you do your 5 years or 6 years of studies, right? You do the work, right? It means, God is giving you a grace for this. So when people say things like, God told me this person will be, and therefore we are good, that is not a healthy approach, right? We want this to last until death do us part, and there are issues that we may have that we are not aware of that could make that situation much more difficult. So just as God given you a prophecy that you will be whatever, you go and you do the work, you go and you put in the work, it's the same thing for marriage. So as I would have said in earlier programs, premarital counseling is a form of counseling that can benefit any couple that is planning to marry. Premarital counseling is sometimes people call it premarital preparation. For me, premarital counseling is both educational, where I am teaching about, what is marriage, principles for healthy relationships, how to create a culture of love, tools for communication and conflict resolution, those sorts of things. But I believe it is also therapeutic in that it is necessary at times to help people to resolve problematic personal behaviors and beliefs, even feelings and relationship issues that they may have. Also remember that just because you do premarital counseling does not mean you are getting married. In fact, some couples go through counseling and find it's best that they do not pursue marriage and they go on to separately live happy and healthy lives. It is best to seek premarital counseling once you both truly believe that this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, right? And you believe this is going to end in marriage, seek premarital counseling, before engagement, and especially before a wedding date is set, because you really don't want to have that pressure of, oh my goodness, we've invited everyone is coming, and now look, we have this issue to deal with that could take us a couple of months to sort out, right? Also, remember that your courtship is not necessarily a good indication of what your marriage will be like. And when I say that, there's a rule of thumb where the good may go into the marriage, but the bad always goes into the marriage. And therefore, we cannot ignore the red flags and think my love will make it go away, or when we say I do, that these things will just go away. So some of the issues that I address in premarital counseling are family of origin and self-awareness, and this would include knowing your personal core values and knowing what your relationship core values are. Is very important for couples to understand those things about them, for individuals to understand those things about themselves, and even as a couple, because of course this impacts every area of the relationship. Your core values, your personal core values, and your relationship core values. I look at creating a culture of love, and this has to do with how people understand I love you. This has to do with the needs of a husband and the needs of a wife, and looking at practical ways of how we deal with those things. And if we come together, communication and conflict resolution, expectations, dealing with finances, a big topic, developing your goals for your marriage mission, dealing with other relationships, how we deal with persons of the opposite sex, what are the boundaries, how do we deal with ex-intimate partners, right? Your spiritual life and sexual issues. These are the major issues that I address in premarital counseling. So premarital counseling for me generally would last about a year with a couple. So what I want to do in these programs is just to go a little more in depth, in detail, in the issues. Now, I'm not going to go into all of these that I've shared here. I just want to touch on a few of them. And one of them that I think is very, very important for me to look at is a family of origin. That is a critical area. So what I want to do in this program is to just share a little bit on why it's important to address family of origin, but also some of the things that you want to be discussing as you deal with this issue of your family of origin, right? So, hope listening, taking your notes, right? The term family of origin refers to the family that you grew up in. So parents, siblings, some of us would have grown up in extended families, some of us would have grown up with step parents, some of us would have grown up with grandparents, or a combination of all of those. Even, some of us may have grown up with certain people at a certain time in our childhood, and then that may have shifted in later childhood or even in adolescence. Now, these persons that we would have spent time with from as early as we could remember, or from birth, until, let's say, 17, 18, would have a strong influence on the people that we become. So one's family of origin, right? So your family of origin is the people that you grew up with who were responsible for you growing up, right? Is the place that people typically learn to become who they are. From the family of origin, a person learns how to communicate, to deal with emotions, to get needs met. People also learn many of their values and beliefs from their families. Men and women who grew up in relatively healthy, functional families adjust in a marriage relationship. So the more functional, the easier it is for you to adjust generally. They learn to accommodate each other. And at times, you might smile or cringe when your spouse has a different way of doing something. You might complain a little bit, but you adjust because that was part of what you would have also learned in a functional family, right? For example, because perhaps your mother was a fanatic about keeping a clean and neat house. You might say, never, I will never be a slave, to my house or to such a compulsion. But then you notice that your spouse, is laid back with how the house is kept, and even at the clutter that he or she can tolerate is starting to get on your nerves. Because remember, you grew up in a space that was very organized and clean, right? And then what you find happening, you could find comfort in returning to your own relatively organized space, but you have to know where it is coming from. Some people grow up in a space that is comfortably cluttered, and that's okay for them, another person. And so that is not about somebody being, oh my God, he's so disorganized, she's so nasty, no, we grow up differently, and we have to understand that about each other and decide what will be our culture, which may take more adjusting, takes adjusting on both sides. So that in marriage, of course, there are a million of these differences, right? Many of them are minor, but the minor could become major, right? And some are big. You can and will argue about some of them, right? Some people insist that their way is the right way. And it helps to remember that the only right way, one way, is Jesus. He's the only way, right? I have no other way, right, to the Father. But there are many ways to get the same thing done. And there are many ways to approach something or to do things, right? So they understand that in marriage, we must have room to adjust our mindset about how we get things done and how we do things as a couple and as individuals. So he might wash up the wares one way, she might wash up the wares one way. What do we want at the end of the day? We want clean wares. So some things we just say, the ware's gonna be clean. I remember a situation where a couple had a little conflict about how we do pastels. who steamed it in their home and who boiled it in their home. And I'm thinking, so as I said to them, I say, okay, you all could try it and see which one you all prefer. Both of them come out real good. So it's really whoever deciding to do the pastel, they decide what method you're going to use. So if both of you all doing it, just come to some agreement that it both tasting good. So this is the best way for us, right? Because the steam one tasted really well after I get them to both steam and boil. Right? So, a lot of times where we come from seems like this is the way, this is the best way, right? Individuals typically develop a sense of self in the concept of their family of origin. So who am I? Coming from your family of origin, right? Children who are shown love and kept safe may develop a strong sense of self. But if love and safety are frequently unavailable, a child's sense of self may be weak or damaged. Most families will have some negative aspects. That's because nobody is perfect, and therefore no family is perfect, right? I could certainly say the family of origin I came from, not perfect, right? Most families will have some negative aspects as well as positive ones. And all family traits will influence a person's adult life. In some way, it will have an influence. If one's family of origin was dysfunctional, face issues such as abuse and the different forms of abuse. Remember, you have physical abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sometimes even spiritual abuse, where people use the Bible in a demonic way, twisted way, right, to have control over others. That is emotion, that is spiritual abuse, right? There could even be things like sexual abuse, right? Once you face issues like abuse, drug or alcohol abuse, persons with poor health, including parents, if there was poverty that you felt, because sometimes we could grow up in what people may see as poverty, but you really didn't feel poor, right? So you grew up in poverty that you felt did not provide children with real world skills and real world life skills, or did not adequately demonstrate love, that person may experience difficulties in these areas later in life, especially if they start a family of their own. And remember, children come to go, they didn't come to stay, right? They didn't come to stay. So we have to understand, even in our own families and having our children, we are literally preparing them to leave us and to start their own family, if that is what God has planned for them. They might also, in many cases, have developed coping strategies or related strengths in the face of a difficult upbringing. Without an awareness of how these issues affected them, however, it is likely that negative patterns may be repeated over time. A child who witnessed parents making certain choices or engaging in certain behaviors may develop a tendency to behave in a similar pattern. And I'm sure we can understand this. I saw my mother quarreling, so you know what? Deal with conflict. So you know what? When conflict arises, I quarrel too. That's what I saw, right? As unhealthy as it is, it's not getting me any results, it's not doing anything good, but a quarreling. Because that's what I saw, yeah? Children who do not feel loved by their parents may also take on themselves the responsibility to become a perfect child. And a lot of times a perfect child to gain their parents' love, and thus, they want to win that love from them. However, a child's behavior is generally not because of a parent's failure to love. Parent not loving a child most times doesn't have anything to do with the child, right? So this approach does not work. Generally, it doesn't work, right? It may also affect a child's personality, as a child may strive even into adulthood to please a parent, sacrificing personal needs and desires in the process. And this is one of the root causes to situations where husbands or wives can't seem to prioritize their present family over their family of origin. These are things that one does not see without help. Sometimes people don't see that this is what is happening without help. Although we have some cultural things that cause people also to prioritize family of origin over their present family. Whether they intend to or not, most people carry their family of origin with them throughout life. Issues in one's adult life with friendships and relationships may reflect family of origin issues. Like sometimes you meet someone and you say, I realize their family, they don't talk about anything serious, or they don't truly deal with conflict. Well, if that is so, you get into a relationship with that person that is what will also happen in the marriage, right? An individual who sought attention from parents by attempting to be perfect may continue to work towards perfection to achieve approval from a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a spouse. Some people may also consciously or unconsciously place certain expectations on a partner who may be unaware, unable, or unwilling to live up to them. Bringing unaddressed family of origin issues into a romantic relationship can create problems that are often confusing and overwhelming to both partners. So sometimes you're not even doing it consciously. It is, as I say to clients, your default setting. This is how you understand how you see the world, how you feel safe in the world, because this was how your brain was programmed through your family of origin, right? For example, one person whose parents divorce may resolve to avoid divorce and work hard in a relationship to prevent it. But unresolved effects of family of origin issues, such as a communication problem or difficulty with trust, may still cause the relationship to fail or be very dysfunctional. In order to fully understand the behaviors exhibited in an adult relationship, it may be important or necessary to understand why those behaviors develop and how they relate to one's family of origin. So the truth about it, we could see dysfunction, say we don't want it, but remember, we didn't see functional. So we now have to understand, what does functional look like? If your family of origin had serious problems such as alcoholism, abuse, infidelity, or mental illness, lack of conflict resolution, or unhealthy ways of dealing with conflict, the unlearning and relearning can be more complicated. But it doesn't mean that you can't, right? Adult awareness will help you not to repeat negative patterns modeled during those formative years. Once you become aware of the patterns of your family of origin, you can change them. You can change them with help, with support, with God's grace, with prayer, with deliverance. You can, right? It is not easy, but a desire to change, surrendering your ways to God, sometimes individual and couple counseling can free, right? Whether it is a boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, even spouse as married couples, from repeating destructive behaviors. Be sure to exercise caution if either of you come from a family with divorced parents. Many couples, observing the heartache caused by their parents' breakup and wanting to honor God in their marriage, resolve to do everything possible to avoid divorce. Since commitment is a strong predictor of marital success, right? And this is an important strength. Actually, just sometimes staying committed long enough to be able to work things out, right? On the other hand, since the child of divorce may not have witnessed, for example, healthy conflict resolution or other important skills in their family of origin, there may be underlying skills or attitude gaps. And I've met with persons who are divorced. They said their parents also got divorced and they never wanted it. But what they didn't realize, that there were things that they didn't learn and gaps and things they did not understand, so that even though this is not what they wanted, they caused serious pain to their partners and they caused serious pain to each other, right? That led to ultimately a breakdown in the marriage. So take time to explore what you learned about life, about love and conflict. in your family of origin so that you can understand how this influences your current relationship for better or for worse. A lot of times in marriage, nobody gets married unless something's truly, truly wrong with you. You know, to make each other's life a living hell. We don't get married and say, see me, I'm going to treat him so bad, or I'm going to treat her so badly. No, we don't. What we don't realize is that we have learned certain things, and some of them may be unconscious. We have learned certain things and think this is the right way or this is the only way, and that is destructive. Again, I want to say to listeners, please do some research on narcissism. We're seeing a lot more of that. So do your own research, even as you are, if you're in a relationship or thinking about being in a relationship, right? There are going to be aspects of our family of origin that we would like to replicate in our family, a future family, right? So there are things wonderful. I would really like to continue this in my new family, and other aspects, of course, that we would like to change, and that is perfectly normal and expected. It is important to remember that you and your significant other might have very different experiences with your family while growing up and even now. And you may have different expectations for your future family together. This is not only an opportunity to make decisions in regard to your future family, but it is a great time to learn more about your significant other. So even as you're in a committed relationship, being able to talk from a place, share and speak from a place not of judgment, but from a place of wanting to understand where he came from, where she came from. Oh, this is why you see it like this. Oh, this is why this upsets you, you know, and not take things personal, but understand, okay, I get it. I see why it's so difficult for you to ask for help. You know, understand those things while we are both changing and growing and learning. So some questions for discussion when we are dealing with family of origin. And as I counsel with couples, this is the first topic I deal with in premarital counseling. And as I counsel with couples, family of origin questions are in almost every area that we discuss. So whether we discuss expectations, finances, conflict, you will have to go back to family of origin. So I kind of start with a light kind of discussion. And the first part, so a sort of choose your best response kind of thing. In my family of origin, affection was, and you have a few responses there, whether it was shown warmly or often, really shown. You can have other any responses too, and you share what that is. My home was usually, if it was neat or clean, if it was comfortably cluttered, if it was something else. Decision making was done by who made decisions in the home. So kind of overview of things, right? Whether it was mother, father, whether it was both parents consulting, whether it was everybody in the house, including the children, whether nobody seemed to make decisions, whatever it is, or other. You want to know what happened when the adults in the home disagree, whether it was the parents or step-parents or whoever the adults that were taking care of the children. What happened when they disagreed? Did they scream? Did they yell? Did they take a little time separate to cool off? Did they use silent treatment? You know, did you never saw it because they never fought in front of you? Whatever it is. So I'm looking and seeing, okay, because you're getting a sense of what could be this person's default setting. Responsibility for keeping the home clean. Who did that belong to? You know, was it everyone clean up after themselves? Was it mom who did it? You know, it was not issue you didn't notice, right? Nobody ever cleaned up. We only cleaned when people came over, right? Whatever it was. Privacy, you know, if privacy was something that was respected, or if privacy was seen as a sign of secretiveness, or was it seen as selfishness? You know, money, how did we deal with money? So this is just like a brief overview I'm getting. Was it save, like, we saving for a rainy day? Was it, we spend it only on necessities? Was it that we just spent, use freely, for things like recreation and those things? We were always in debt. You're looking at what was happening. And of course, there's always that other, because you want people, if none of those options apply per se, to say that other. Relationships, how the relationships were they close? Were they cordial? Were they strained? What else? Household chores, how did you all get chores done? Was there some homes have a woman work and a men's work? Was it that people did, what they were good at? So if somebody's good at washing clothes, they were the ones who handled that. Somebody was better at cleaning the bathroom, they were the ones who handled that. If both parents seemed to share equally, or what happened there? Even things like Sundays or religious holy days, what people would have done. Even celebration of things. So how, people celebrate things like Christmas and birthdays and anniversaries, how would those things acknowledged and celebrated? So that's like a basic kind of overview. And then I go into some more depth where we're looking at, so one a very important question: what did I learn about men from my mother, from my father? And this is not just about them sitting and having a talk with you. Based on their life, what did you learn? And this has nothing to do with judging them. This has nothing to do with whether you agree with what you saw them do or say. This is simply, what did I see? What did I hear? So what did I learn from men, right? From what I learned about men, from mom, from father, right? And if there were step parents and there are grandparents and there, we put them in. Woman from mother, from father. Husband from mother, from father. Wife from mother, from father, right? And of course, we could tweak it because people have special situations that they would have grown up in. And again, this is not about judging these people. It's about looking at, what were you seeing? What is your default setting like? Describe briefly how affection between parents was shown. How affection was shown with siblings, and how affection was shown with siblings and parents. And all these things I really want in writing. Writing doesn't mean you're using a pen, you could type it up somewhere, but I really want it to come out of your head. I want you to think about it, right? Describe briefly how conflict was handled in your family of origin. How were emotions expressed and handled in your family of origin? Describe your relationship with your mother between the age of 0 to 11 years, and then between 12 years to 19 years. And the same thing for relationship with your father. And this is whether you grew up with those parents or not. Describe that relationship. What are the things you appreciated about your mother? What are the things you didn't appreciate about your mother? What are the things you appreciate about your father? Things you didn't appreciate about your father? How were decisions made, in your home with respect to children's activities? How money was allocated and spent? The educational, moral, and spiritual development of the children. How were those things done? You're asking about parents. Were your parents friends? And what you think are the characteristics of healthy friendship. List the things that you appreciated about your parents' relationships. So let's say your parents were together. Some of us would have grown up in homes where our parents may have lived unmarried in what we call a common law relationship. Some of us, our parents were married, right? Some of us, we grew up with grandparents. Those were the parents that we had, right? So you're listing the things that you appreciated about your parents' relationship. You list the things that you did not like or didn't appreciate about your parents' relationship. You want to describe what you see as the characteristics of healthy friendship. What aspects of your parents' relationship, you admire. What are the things you hope to imitate, right? Or not imitate, right? For couples with experience of divorce in one or both families of origin, or where parents have multiple partners, commitment is an important issue to discuss. right? And we know that God's idea of marriage is until death we part. Divorce is not a sin under certain circumstances, and we understand that, right? Sometimes it is the loving thing to do, right? Where, so that we have to understand in terms of God's idea of marriage, you know, where we learn to die to self and learn unconditional love for another human being. Commitment is not a very exciting word or concept, but it probably has more to do with making marriages work than anything except common values. That is why, very important, when I start with a couple, I want to know what are their personal core values and what are their relationship core values. That is very important, right? So it's not just about reciting marriage vows or having a piece of paper, you know, that marriage certificate. Commitment is important because we act differently when we know that our futures are tied together, right? Commitment means you have promised to stay and work it through, not just today, but forever. Notice we say work it through. There are people who are not willing to do the work to change, and one person cannot make a marriage work. So this commitment is about both people being committed to working it through. And that is why premarital counseling helps us to understand what some of that work is. But I think when people genuinely come to premarital counseling to learn and to understand and to grow, that is a part of who they are, and that continues in their marriage. So that even when they face difficult things, which they will, even when the curveballs of life, the disappointment, the sometimes feelings of betrayal comes into the marriage, because I already have that attitude that I can seek help, I can make changes, I can own up to what I am doing that is hurting my partner, you find that they are able to work things through. People who come into premarital counseling and we just doing this because the pastor say, or because my girlfriend forced me to do this, or because my boyfriend forced me to do it, or if they say 3 sessions, but nobody can tell me how to live my life. That is not that is not healthy. That individual does not yet, and I say yet because I always believe there's hope, have the attitude that is necessary to have a healthy marriage, which is there's always need for me to do some change and some work. Now, marriage is not always work. I don't feel like I'm working in my marriage anymore, right? For years now, actually. Because once we do the important work, after a while, it becomes like second nature. So I'm not at all saying here that marriage is just work. No. But there are times we have to be intentional about the work that we need to do to have something healthy. Yeah? And just the last 3 things. This is most of what I cover in the discussions that we have in family of origin. And in having those discussions, I am looking at the implications for marriage and what are the things we need to address, right? What made you feel safe growing up? So you start to understand, okay, this is what makes my partner feel safe. And, you know, and we discuss why it made you feel safe, and even you can understand why. And what made you feel scared or unsafe in childhood, and being able to understand those things. So, and what were your predominant childhood feelings? What were your predominant childhood feelings? Did you feel loved? Did you feel cherished? Did you feel important? Or did you feel confused or alone or neglected or abandoned or rejected? What were those feelings? And therefore, if there's a lot of pain, you know, there's need for forgiveness and even for dealing with someone healthy mindsets that may result as a result that you may have as a result of that pain. All right, so that's it for family of origin issues. As I said, I will not be covering all in such depth. I'll just be dealing with a few as we go forward with this series of the importance of premarital counseling. And I really pray that this would help all our listeners, even those in the future listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or on the Facebook page, 98.1 FM Facebook page, that it would really help you to understand how important these things are. So, Tiffany?
Thank you so very much, Petreece. And yes, they are available on our FBN TV on YouTube and Isaac the Promise on Facebook. So you can head on over to our platforms. And if you know someone may need to get this information, you can share it with them as well. So, Petreece, I want to say thank you so much. I'm looking at the time, but I'd love to squeeze in one. That's if someone calls at this time. Let me check the WhatsApp and see if we got any messages. But just to give you Petreece's number once again, and you're still doing in-house, Petreece. You're still doing
online. Only online.
Right. So still online, guys. I'm seeing one caller is calling in. So let me get this one in for you, Petreece. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
This is Ulash calling. Please, I have a song 98.1 FM station.
All right, so we are on with Counselor Petreece Cuffie. So if you want, you can call me. We are on with Petreece Cuffie at this time. All right, so what you can do is
I can call you back.
Yes, you can call me back in the next half hour or so, okay?
Next half an hour or so?
Yes. All right,
because I have a song to put on.
All right. Okay, my brother. We are out of time, Petreece. I really thought we would have gotten one. No WhatsApp messages at this time.
Yeah, these things happen.
Yes. All right. So thank you so very much once again for coming on and really sharing your knowledge with us and educating us on these topics. Thank you so very much, Petreece. God bless you.
God bless.
All right. Have a good one. So if you want to get in contact with Petreece, she is online still. The number is 329-7383. And this is where we pull it down for the program Healthy Relationships on this Monday afternoon.
Hi, I'm Petreece Cuffie, counselor and trainer, and one of my deepest desires is to see people experience the fulfillment and growth that comes through healthy relationships. We're wired for relationships, so tune in and join with me as I explore and discuss tools for healthy relationships every Monday, 12:15 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM.